On this episode of ResiWeek, we talk payroll increases, CEDIA plus HTSA trainings, and Trident IoT. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek. This is ResiWeek, episode 430, Offer Benefits. Welcome to this episode of ResiWeek. This is your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matty Scott for AVNation.TV. And this week, I'm pleased to be joined by two of my good friends. First, we have Amanda Wildman. She's the co-owner of TruMedia Home up in Michigan. How you doing, Amanda?
I'm doing great, Matt. Thanks so much.
Oh, thank you for being here. Then we have my good friend, Mr. John Henkel. He's the director of SMB product marketing over at NETGEAR. How you doing, John?
Good, man. Good to see you. It's been a little while. Thanks for having me.
It has. Thank you both so much for joining us. All right, we are going to kick this off with a story that comes to us from CE Pro. Integrators payroll has ticked up 3.13% in 2023. Their annual wage and salary survey reports a median increase in overall pay, plenty of job opportunities where you can earn over $70,000, as well as solid hourly wages. So go read through that. It's a really good read. Showing kind of a good overview of what the industry pay scale looks like, specifically in the U.S. But notwithstanding, it shows some cool stuff, including the fact that most of the executive level, the median salary for that is $113,000, which is again really, really good. But more importantly, the competitive hourly wages are pretty good. Entry-level technicians are earning about $20, $20.50 last year. But after the 2-year mark, that jumps up to about $27 an hour. Service techs are making an average of $26 an hour. All right, Amanda, let me start with you on this. A 3% uptick is pretty good. I'm curious how much of that is actually keeping up with inflation in the U.S. there. But when we separate that from inflation, is this what we should be expecting to see across the board as far as salary increases?
I mean, I definitely think that seems to be pretty on par as far as salary increases go. My biggest thing has always been, I've never been a person that's done raises specifically based on like longevity with my company or necessarily yearly reviews. I do that more based on when you take things off of our plate. But it is becoming more competitive because in order to be able to get people in order to be able to keep people, you have to increase wages. But I also think that we've seen, particularly with COVID, when that had all happened, people also being more creative with it. So we have like some different things with flexibility where we started over COVID going to a 4 10-hour day. So instead of working 5 days a week, 5 8-hour shifts, we did a 4 10-hour day so that way my employees get a day off so that they can do doctor's appointments, things like that. So they, did obviously salaries go up again as they take things off of our plate. But, being more creative and being more flexible with, some of those things. And then we added a lot of education into ours as well. We really started that trend during COVID where we pay for some education. And so since we added our electrical division, one of our things is we've got a contract where we help them and we pay for their journeyman license. So we help them actually do their schooling. We allow them to be able to have the time off, to be able to go ahead and do that and take those classes and take those tests. So, I don't know that it's keeping up with the rate of inflation with everything else, because also being a mom who has a son who's just graduating this week, and seeing how much, increase has gone up for college, and university, even just in the 4 years from my daughter to my son, has been a little bit insane. So I don't know that we're keeping up necessarily with that, but it is good to see, those going up and people valuing more those technicians, even at those entry level positions. It's no longer just a, real basic, you can get someone for, $10 an hour or something like that kind of a thing. You really have to be like pouring into, and there's incentive, I think, then when you're paying more to try to make sure you're keeping those employees longer term.
Yeah, that's a great point. I looked it up while we were chatting. In 2023 in the U.S., the Consumer Price Index rose 3.4%. So it's not exactly keeping up with inflation, but it's pretty darn close. John, when I look at these numbers and, kind of the hourly wages that are the median wages there, as well as the annual salaries, et cetera, they seem to be fairly on par with what I loosely know about the construction industry, right? How do these, do you think that these wage points line up effectively with, like the commercial AV market, the construction market? And are we in for a concern given that, like in California, you've got a minimum wage for, restaurant workers at $20 an hour? Is that going to make these seem small?
Yeah, I mean, these are all good questions, and it's a little different perspective from me because I work for this huge, multinational public company. So it's different than Amanda's perspective, of course, and others. And we do have people we hire, but we don't do the installation work. We don't do all the stuff from NETGEAR's perspective.
Right.
But I think, yes, I think all this stuff is good that people, especially at the entry level, have some choices, right? And then they can get a decent paying job and work their way up. I take it personally too, where when I was in college, I came back summer of my freshman year. It's been a couple of years ago, but I did try to find a job in TV. I started in broadcast television. So, and I was in electrical engineering at the time at Purdue, got a job at a local TV station in the union, IBEW. And that was great because the wages were a little higher and everything. It was great. And that was a great way to start. So I think more of this across the board that these organizations can do to publish what the rates are and get them up to be union-ish or, just more out in the open, I think is the key, and provide more opportunities for anybody, young or old. I think those are really good things. I was a little confused by the report, to be honest. There's a couple of things I highlighted. I'm like, but it said it went up here, but then they say essentially every wage and salary figure is down year over year. So I'm not sure where we are after reading this, to be honest. So that some of that stuff was confusing to me. A couple of takeaways real quick that I found interesting about this was that more than 70%, 77% said they offer bonuses, and the median remained the same, just under $1,500 for bonus. Now that's a really cool thing. I know that's an extra special level of engagement you have with employees. You're able to do that. I know for NETGEAR, I was concerned about that coming into a big company. It's built in, and now as someone who manages people too, it's built into the people yearly, and you have some discretion for that. And that's a really cool thing that rewards people that are working their tail off, but maybe you can't give them an increase in salary. But hey, here's a bonus, have a good dinner out, have a good weekend or something. Well, $1,500 would do, more than that. So those are the things I think that are real positive in this report too. And then being an older guy here, what I noticed people say that the other gripe was they didn't offer 401ks. And that's something that, boy, I wish I sure thought of when I was 20 years old, 30 years old. And it's hard for an employer. Well, Amanda, and you're an employer. You can't do that for everybody. You can't do that all the time. I realize that it's hard, but boy, is that a great thing. So my takeaways from some of this study.
Amanda, just before we move on, is that a big concern? Because that was something that has stood out to me, gosh, as long as I've been in this industry, is that especially on the residential side, the majority of companies are smaller companies. They can't do the benefit packages that, for example, even the larger commercial AV companies do. It's much more hey, we can offer you this amount to use towards some sort of medical benefit or something like that. But you're not going to be able to typically find that matching 401k or, a large medical benefit situation going on potentially.
Well, I think that it's part of like our industry maturing too. I mean, we've been fairly young, for a while. So a lot of this stuff is new. I mean, a lot of this has been mom and pop, smaller businesses kind of like starting it out, being the entrepreneurs. Now that we're kind of getting our businesses, solid and steady and, the industry's been around and it's not slowing down in the fact that we're doing more jobs, we're doing more work. I think the next biggest step is getting business owners to transition from working in the business to working on the business, and then having things to help educate them about how to maybe be able to offer those benefits or how to be able to work in like a profit sharing or things like that. And that's why, like, I was super excited too, just to segue this into a CEDIA thing on it. But when CEDIA added in, the tech and business summit, like, we're now starting to really see a demand for people like, let's work on the business side of things. Let's work on the paperwork. Let's work on getting that last little percentage in and getting it finished so that maybe we can do a profit sharing. Maybe we can do a bonus thing. Maybe we can start doing a 401k. So getting the business owners to go from being like, the entrepreneur all kind of on their shoulders to starting to transition to more employees and maybe taking a little step out of the business. So instead of working in it every single day, we're starting to work on it and create better, more viable companies and businesses. So I think that that's a really important thing for all of us to look at.
I think that's a really good point, that I think in the residential world versus commercial world, you'll find that the majority of people were the woman doing the installation, right? That's how you started. And you're like, well, I can make a business out of this. Like, your friends hired you or somebody like that, right? And like, I could do this. So they don't know the business aspects of it. So it is really important that CEDIA, HTMA, all the other organizations, HTMA, take this on and you say, yeah, good, I can run the business. Now, here's some ways to help you run the business. That's smart.
Yeah, it's definitely matured, even as long as I've been in it. All right, let's change topics for a second. This comes to us from Residential Systems. CEDIA teams with HTSA on an education program. They are offering an in-person, I think 11 in-person training events over 10 weeks at CEDIA's training facility in Fishers, Indiana, just outside of Indianapolis. Go read through the article. You'll see a little bit more on what they're running between May 7th and October 25th, covering a range of topics from boot camp and technical courses to furls and lighting, AutoCAD, product management, etc. John, this is I think a great thing to be coming up. How important is it to have these in-person training events versus, just doing online webinars, etc., especially in a technical field such as this?
It's important. I'm going to stop right at the first part of the article where it says where it's based, Fishers, Indiana, because I grew up in Indianapolis. That's where I got my start. So I'm thrilled that they're doing this in my former hometown. Moved away a couple of years. So it's cool. And it's the crossroads of America is what Indianapolis is called, right? You can get there from anywhere relatively easily. So it's a really key part of that. Training, as we've done in NETGEAR for the last several years, we've noticed people really need training, no question, especially for complicated switch configurations, which we make easy now. But and as we've all come through the last few years, I'm not going to say the word, but we know what it is. We've come through the last few years and really value these in-person meetings. Stuff like this is odd. This is awesome. We can do this from 3 different parts of the world all the time and come together and talk. But for training, we're realizing that really you need to be in person for a lot of this stuff. We are really ramping it up this year with our own team, and they are scrambling. And they're so busy, and it's just really, it's a bit of a mess logistically, trying to send stuff around everywhere. But it's really proven, the weight in gold, because people are now they're in person. You can't get that same kind of connection virtually. Yeah. You can get some information across, sure, but hey, wait a second, I have a question. I can't quite get this, and somebody can walk over and show you. You just can't beat that. There's no way around that. So this is really great to hear, and I hope that people will start taking advantage of this more in person. The fact they can open it up to anybody, and we have a bunch of partners too. We have like 250 manufacturing partners. Some of them have awesome training facilities around the country and the globe, and we're able to use some of those ourselves for some training purposes. We're going to see this ramp up and up, and really, I think, take hold and bring people to a new level of understanding and education in the industry.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Amanda, what does this mean for CEDIA and for HTSA and kind of for the other organizations? Because I know back when the HQ was being built and developed and planned, that this was kind of this was the end goal. This was part of the dream, was that CEDIA would be able to bring in other organizations and other manufacturers, et cetera, to take advantage of the training facility. So it's fantastic that they're doing it. But what does it mean for CEDIA and for HTSA and all the other associations out there to see this happening?
That's a really, really great question, Matt. And I totally agree with you on the fact that this is what kind of like the end goal was. That's part of the reason that they built a state-of-the-art facility. For anyone who hasn't been there, to actually go in, like when you go into those 3 listening rooms that they have set up to be able to do like acoustics and things like that in there, you're not going to see that. Like, yes, there are manufacturers that have training facilities, all over the place, but to have ones that are specifically dedicated, I mean, those were built specifically to isolate all of the outdoor sound when you go into that room and when you go into that space. The other part is when you do, I actually had the luxury of being able to be one of the instructors, actually in one of the boot camps a couple of years ago, pre-COVID, when CEDIA was doing the in-person. And it was fantastic because like they have all these little like mock-ups, so I've done trainings everywhere, right? Because I am a technician, I'm out in the field. So I've gone to manufacturer trainings, I've gone to the hotel trainings, I've gone to the tech summits, I've done all those things. But there's something different about when you're in that space. They put up fresh drywall, you're cutting through the drywall, you're fishing those wires. I mean, I had people that had admittedly been in the industry for a period of time that were in my class. And like, I didn't help them. I knew what they were doing, but first thing they took the speaker and they threw the template away, right? When they were cutting the speaker. Well, we all know, like, you want to have the template right there. So what they did is they cut around the shape and the size of the actual speaker itself. So like they had a hole that was like way too big, right? And I let them make that mistake because like I knew it's just in a training facility. But like as a boss, like had that happen on one of my job sites, right, with one of my employees that I was teaching, like I would have had a really expensive drywall repair. I probably would have like been hollering and like losing my mind, like on a job site. And, oh, here, just let me do it and take it over. Now they did that as a mistake. They go to put the speaker in. And of course, as we all know, the speaker's going to like fall like right through the hole. And they're like, well, how do we get it to stay? And I'm like, well, I don't know. How do you get it to stay? And they had to really go through that entire process. And so they really had the ability to, I will say, fail in a very safe environment that as a boss and as a business owner, we don't always get the ability to allow our employees to potentially learn or fail in a safe environment because they're so oftentimes on the job doing like the physical training. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, no, it makes tons of sense.
And so I think that that's really, really great. And so HTSA being able to like partner with that. I mean, I hope that other manufacturers, grab onto that, like when new products launch, when there's new installation techniques on how to be able to do stuff. I mean, it's a really great, like you said, it's centrally located. It's pretty easy to get in. The other thing is yes, I've done all of the trainings in Vegas and all this other kind of stuff. There is something about it being in Indianapolis. Like I know it's not necessarily as flashy as Vegas or some of these other places, but you really come in and you're really focused on actually doing the work, actually doing the studying, actually getting the training. You don't have all the other distractions. So I really hope that we start seeing more manufacturers kind of take advantage of that. And I think when they start seeing how easy it is, I mean, you've got that huge giant classroom, so you can do in-classroom training. You can do some really, really great hands-on training for manufacturers to come in, or like HTSA, they've got that loading dock so they can just back in like the truck or trailer, whatever it is that they need. Super, super easy to use. So it seems like a no-brainer to me. I hope more people use it.
All right, let's hit our last story of the day. This comes to us from Residential Tech Today. Trident IoT has launched their Targus Z-Wave series silicone. Excuse me. It is a brand new system-on-chip solution that supports all the latest advancements in Z-Wave, including long range and the U.S. implementation of long range to the European spec. That SDK is going to be shipping very, very soon. All right, Amanda, let me start with you on this. I always kind of geek out a little bit over these stories because I think it's very cool what's coming up and what's coming down the pipe. And I love the fact that, they're just expanding this so quickly. All that to say, is the most exciting part of these announcements, and specifically this announcement, the implementation of Z-Wave long range. Is that what we should be excited about?
Yeah, I mean, I think when any of these things come out, like it's always exciting to geek out and, see how it's going to change your business and what it is that you're going to do with it. But I think the biggest thing is for me and my company, I don't care what the product is. Like, I got to get it in my hand and I have to be able to test it. And I always think that that's the biggest struggle that I have. These companies will launch new products and they're like, go put it in all of your clients' homes. We're going to solve all of these problems. With my company and my business, I need to be able to put a product in after I've tested it, after I've had it in my shop, after I know how everything has worked. I've been able to like have my technicians kind of like beat it up, make sure that it's going to work for my clients, because I don't want to go back and I don't want to have to service it, because there's nothing worse than having new products that come out and you end up with egg on your face because you promised someone the sun, moon, and stars of what it said it was going to do, and then it doesn't, result in the solution that they thought that it was going to. And then you have to go back. You either have to service it, you have to pull it out, you have to apologize. You kind of end up with egg on your face. So I'm kind of with you a little bit on, it's great when we see these things. It's awesome to geek out, but how quickly do they get into clients' homes? I really think it's how quickly do they get into integrators' hands where they can test it and trial it and get their technicians' hands on it, because that's the only way, that's the gateway to get it actually out into the field with homeowners and consumers, I think.
Yeah, that's a great point. John, when you look at this, because this is a supplier, right? What is the turnaround time that we expect out of this type of announcement, right? Is this something that we should be getting excited about now? Is this something we go, oh, that's cool, we'll see what this looks like in 6 months when it's got to the manufacturers and then they're able to do all the testing, et cetera, to get it into Amanda's hands so she can test it before she's going to roll it out to a client's home?
It's hard to say because, working for other manufacturers before this one, and I think NETGEAR is more conservative in their forward-thinking statements being public, but they already got stuff teed up. I'm sure they already have some manufacturers that are working on stuff. They talk about a design, their design case, I forget what they call it now, but they have that ready to go. Reference design. Mm-hmm. Talk about reference design. It's Monday, reference design for that. So they've already got that together. And I think what I take away from this is what I've learned from other companies that are manufacturers is that they're going to help you. So this enables smaller manufacturers who couldn't, or even integrator, to bring a product to market. You can work with them and that reference design and get something to market pretty quick. Pretty quick could mean 6 months, could be a year, depending on all that. So they probably already have people lined up that are going to be bringing products out. I'll bet at CEDIA Expo, we're going to hear some announcements for that are upcoming. So I wouldn't say, it'd be next year sometime necessarily. I think we'll probably see some announcements coming up this year. And I think the exciting part is that they're going to the trouble, which is a high cost and trouble to get it on a chip and make it repeatable. SDVOE has done that for the commercial industry, and they've come out recently with a smaller, lower power need chip as well. Things like that are awesome because then people can take advantage of it right away and then sometimes pop it back in their existing design if it's the same footprint. But I think with this one, you'll see all kinds of new products coming out that'll be able to be smaller and take advantage of this technology and probably a lot quicker to market.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, we are going to wrap it there. Thank you both so much for joining us. John, if people want to connect with you, learn more about NETGEAR, where can they do that?
NETGEAR is easy, netgear.com/AV. And of course, you can find me on LinkedIn, best place.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Amanda, my friend, if people want to connect with you, learn more about TruMedia Home, where can they do that?
Just look up TruMedia Home, no E in the True. Otherwise, it's A Wildman for Amanda Wildman at TruMediaHome.com, or on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and of course, TikTok, Mr. Matt.
Yeah, we know all about you and your TikToking. All right. Thank you for joining us. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Twitter or X at Matt D. Scott and most other social platforms. But more importantly, please visit AVNation.tv, where you'll find this show, as well as a wide variety of other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek,
the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.